Welcome back to Mindustry V8. This is my play of the Serpulo campaign on Eradication difficulty. My voice is on the internet for this video because I wanted to include some of the details about some of the decisions I'm making. And in the meantime, I will just comment about things that I am doing. And I thought the format of a voiceover would be nicer than just putting text on the screen. So, launching from the Omega production base that I built, we have a power schematic using thorium reactors, as well as a poly and mono factory. The thorium reactor will power the cryofluids fast enough that it will cool itself down in time. And right off the bat, after that, is the silicon crucible schematic. This is actually one of my designs from back in Mindustry V6. And I sometimes see it used on servers, even to this day, which is pretty cool. And of course, silicon is needed for all of the unit types that we will be making, because this is an attack net. And then here I am setting up my landing pads, and I set them up over here, out of the way, because I need the space for defenses later on. And don't worry, I will fix this gap in a moment. I'm also not very good at yapping, so in the meantime, just enjoy the gameplay. This is a little schematic that I made that will toggle the landing pads for the various resources on the sorters. This will just rotate through the lesser used items. And then I've got one landing pad dedicated to plastanium and one to silicon because those are more frequently used. And then the next order of business is to set up defense, because enemies are coming. And then having blast compound in the core is very nice for this. All I need to do is unload it. I don't have to get a factory down. And the 6,000 ammo that I'm carrying will last a decent amount of time. Blast is my preferred ammo of choice. You can use it to feed ripples, you can use it to feed swarmers, you can also use it to feed cyclones as well. It also interacts pretty well with cryofluid as well, for extra damage, and cryofluid is also the best coolant for your turrets in the game. And then down goes the Mega Factory, otherwise I'll really quickly run out of titanium. And then the next thing I do is set up power. This is cryofluid for my impact reactors. I'm using impact reactors because I already have the blast compound coming in, or I'll set up the blast compound landing pads at some point. And cryofluid is necessary for all of the unit factories later on as well. I put some liquid containers here so I can fit space for phase bridges, because later on I will double the cryo fluid mixers on the opposite side, and so there's space for that. I like to use underflow gates instead of junctions. Without anything set to them, they actually act exactly the same as junctions. But underflow gates, they have infinite throughput and no item capacity, so it's slightly more efficient because you don't waste the few materials that junctions store. I think junctions store 6 items inside of it. And then inverted sorters, and overflow and underflow gates. All of these have got infinite throughput and no capacity. So that means basically when there is a conveyor coming in and out, the input item will teleport to the output. But you can only chain up to 2 of these at once. The hotkey for over and underflow gates is pretty nice, just the numbers 313 or 312. Whereas underflow gate is 3 and then 9, which is quite far on the keyboard. That's quite annoying though. For this level, I'm definitely setting up a full wall. There are many enemies coming, so a full wall is necessary. Sometimes I only do a partial wall just to encourage the enemy pathfinding. But this time it's not viable, I have to wall it off completely. I do have enemy RTS AI on, so they have been actually skirting around the edges of my defense all over the place. I don't have unpredictable AI though. I thought that was a little bit too much. But the RTS AI is already no joke, so. I'm starting to set up permanent defenses here, and this thorium is of course for fuses. Fuses are probably my favorite turret, or my most preferred turret. It is extremely strong, it does a lot of damage, it fires very quickly as well, and it pierces targets as well, so it's good against multiple targets. The only downside, of course, is its short range. It's also very easy to supply. Thorium or titanium should be pretty easy to come by, so there's that. And then I'm using titanium walls here. This will be the inside layer, and that will be blocking any of the electric or laser effect weapons. And then the other half of the defense is going to be phase boosted Mindustry, and that will keep everything alive until everything comes in range of the fuses. I actually don't see this very much. I often see menders only placed to cover all of the blocks, all of your defenses, but not really spammed anymore. On some of the hardest maps that I've played, and this was back in B5, the highest tier unit you can make is the Zenith, or back then it was called the Revenant. Although enemies had the equivalent of the tier 5 daggers. There was also no foreshadow back then, so you couldn't possibly kill the enemy before they started shooting you. And then so the only way to survive was using Menda spam. That was also phase boosted. And then that's basically how I got around to doing the hardest of maps. And this one definitely counts. This one is definitely an extremely difficult map. For this one, I intentionally set the swarmers and ripples pretty far back compared to where my intended frontline was. And that is to conserve some ammo. Because on my first attempt, I actually ran out of blast. And this time I'm also relying on blast compound to power my impact reactors as well, so it's definitely important to not run out of that. I'm trying to keep the water clear because I'll get naval units and I want to move them around. But I still need to set up defenses because a lot of flyers pass through here. And because the enemy noticed I full walled the front, now they're coming through here, so I need to wall this off as well. Finally starting up unit production. I'll be making units from multiple trees, and I'm starting with the naval tree. And I'll be using the naval tree for defense, basically. My attack plan is basically massing corvuses, and then they will need an escort because all of the waves will pass through them. And I have tried using ship units, naval units. However, the water coverage on this map is not very good, so I will use them purely as defense. And they are very good on the defense because they've got long range. The high tier units have got long range. They heal and they do splash damage without costing ammunition. I guess the unit production cost is the cost. as I've mentioned before, these underflow gates, they function the same as junctions or when not configured to anything. They can only pass through two things, so that titanium unloader won't pass things down because there's three of them in a row. But the other unloaders can pass from right to left because they're only passing through one junction. I actually just realized that second silicon unloader could actually get clogged by titanium. Although I guess it requires so much titanium that it doesn't matter. And this one's not getting any silicon because of the underflow gate. The underflow gate is prioritizing the tier 4 factory. And now it's doing the tier 3 first. I'm using these processes that find the flares and they will fetch the item that is set inside of it. It's a very useful little schematic, and this one I copied from somewhere. And it saves all of the hassle of routing those resources to it. Some quality building versus building action going there. Reconnect the glass. I have intentionally placed this force projector to not cover the exterior of the wall. And that is to stop the damage of the death of units inside of the walls, mainly the air units and the crawler tree of units. The other units will just be stopped outside of the walls. And that's to protect the much weaker conveyors and MEMS projectors and power nodes and such. getting the rest of the defenses up. I actually don't use parallax very much, although it's pretty nice here, just leading all the air units away from the core. Everything is very flammable around the core, and I'm pretty sure it still gets set alight this game. It should help by dragging things into range of the fuses. And that fits perfectly. Totally planned. And with the T5 factory going in, we will need more cryo-fluid. And at some point I will actually double over this. And I finally remember to power that impact reactor. Here I'm just making sure that I cover every single plastanium conveyor with the overdone. Otherwise there will be a bottleneck if any of them isn't covered, if any conveyor isn't covered. I did want to attach this one directly to the core and just need one unloader, but never mind. And for this one I'm using my flare fetching. I do like giving the nodes, the regular nodes, more connections, because big nodes actually only have 15 connections, which is not much more than regular nodes, which have 10 connections. So I like to connect the small nodes and then let the big nodes connect just the few out of range things. And here I'm just pause my building, so I still get the holographic images for the correct spacing without actually building it. Because if I try to put them all, then I'm sure I'll run out of graphite. and that is what I had that Omega production base for. One of them is for exporting resources, and the other one is from launching the original core frame. So I've got Desolate Rift for launching the core, and then Extraction Outpost for launching. And Extraction Outpost happens to have the oil, which is really nice. And here we see the first T5 unit is out. The support ship. Alongside two T4s, which also heal things. And they've also got point defense, which is extremely helpful. Here I'm putting extra layers of walls on. It should have the surge walls on the outside, and then the thorium in the middle. And then there's some spots I intentionally left with 2 layers, and that's to encourage the enemy AI to come to the middle of the wall instead of the edges. Units are bugging. It's quite funny how even these enormous ships will fit inside this one wide area. It seems like bridge conveyors though, they count as full blocks or something, so they can't actually pass bridge conveyors. They can pass under bridge conveyors, but they can't pass the bridge blocks themselves. And at some point you'll see me swap the standard titanium belts for mass bridges for ammunition. And that's because bridges, they store I think about 10 items each, compared to these belts which only hold 3 items each. And you can weave items as well as liquids for 3 block wide turrets, although I don't do it in this case because later on the fights become so long that the belts cannot supply ammo fast enough. So all adding cryo fluid does is just makes it empty faster, which is not necessary. So in fact I just add more bridges so I can hold more ammo. And more phased, boosted, main projector spam. I intentionally put standard belts there to try to ensure that the overdome is always supplied. I think it's probably not necessary though actually, but anyway. So aside from the unit resource items, like silicon and plastanium, I knew I would need a lot of blast and a lot of phase fabric as well, and that's one of the most one of the highest things I'm exporting as well. And that annoying T3 ship is just sitting there out of range. And the Corvus spam begins. Users are the best. I haven't even placed down a foreshadow yet. And I'm just base building as I build up my army. I want to push, but I really cannot until I get a good army, otherwise all I will do is just lose it. In fact, I kind of do at some point. To some extent, a little bit later. And in the meantime, just setting up defense. So my attack plan is mass Corvuses, and then using some kind of escort. I was using mass Vela, but I found that mass Vela alone is not enough. Because the units on Eradication difficulty are no joke. You can have T5s bombed to death by T2s and T1s. The first Corvus is out. Here I'm using bridges for my ammunition supply and local ammunition storage. I think at the time I was thinking of setting up fortresses as my escort, although I think I decided not to, because they don't target air, and they're also only tier 3, so they might be a little bit too squishy. But here I think I accidentally killed my power. I wanted to double all of the cryofluid, and that large node was in the way. And what I was supposed to do was delete that node and immediately place down the 2 new nodes, but I placed down the 2 new ones first, and those didn't make any connections, and then the old ones broke, and then all of those impact reactors are supplied by that one phase bridge, which is now disconnected. Hurrah! And I'm using thorium reactors to start it up again. It was my small reactors, the same one that I started with. There were actually quite a few attempts that I failed, died to because I lost power, and some of them because I lost titanium to power the cryofluid. One of them I lost because I lost all of my monos, and because I didn't have any copper and lead income. All of my megas were also mining copper and lead, and that meant I was running out of titanium because I used so much titanium. And then I died a stupid death. So there's probably another like 5 tries or so that I'm not going to bore you with. And of course, if you've ever needed to restart your impact reactors, you know how it goes. Start one at a time, and then disconnect anything that's unnecessary as well. So I made sure that the water pumps were still on, disconnected the rest of the factory, and I removed one of the liquid tanks supplying the other 2 reactors. And I unpowered the overdome as well, because that is not necessary for starting the impact reactor. In fact, it makes it drain more power when starting up the impact reactor. And I think here I even put a battery beside the phase bridge, the liquid phase bridge. I've lost a few rounds because units from the crawler tree has managed to crawl their way into the back and destroyed my impact reactors. Although I guess a pair of force fields is not going to stop that. And this time around, because I am expecting it, so I did make my perimeter defenses far more comprehensive than in those failed runs. So. And here I think I noticed that my core was not actually covered. So if flyers did get in, which they very well can, that would be an issue. And here I'm importing more phase, because I need it. Guardians coming in. I actually didn't need that gap, but never mind. And I'm using junctions in between the routers because junctions are bi-directional. You can input from either side or even in the middle, and it will still work fine. Prioritizing these small nodes again. And also, the large nodes, I'm more likely to move those large nodes. In case if I move it and then I move it to a location to connect between things, and I don't cover that factory anymore, then that would be an issue. On here, there were a couple of conveyor belts that wasn't being covered by the overdome projectors. The upper titanium belt happens to only be 2 blocks, so I just used 2 underflow gates with infinite throughput. The other one was 4 blocks, so you can't use underflow gates or any gates to cover that. But you can actually use bridge conveyors, because bridge conveyors have got higher throughput than titanium belts. You could actually use standard junctions as well. Standard junctions also have higher throughput than titanium belts. And here I am setting up some foreshadows. Although I don't think they're really necessary, especially with my Corvus army standing here. Getting my beloved tsunamis in there. And then we'll shoot cryo fluid, and we've got that cryo fluid and blast powder, blast compound interaction for extra damage from all of the ripples and these swarmlets. And cryo fluid will also just slow enemies down too. And here we have the incoming quads, which are also Guardian things. I think Guardians have got extra stats, or at least extra health, or maybe some modifier called Shield, maybe? That is basically just extra health. There's no way my units are this strong though. And remember, twice as many in Eradication difficulty. They each have double the health as well. I hope none of that fogged up any of the powerful mixes actually. I might need to check that. I saw that the Tier 5 factory was about halfway, so I could sneak out Tier 4 as well. And I'm using Veilers as the escorts for the Corvus. I put armored belts because I didn't want to accidentally loot any of these. Being pushed around by my megas here. I'm setting up an additional tier 4 factory here. I will need quite a lot of escort units. And I'm actually not very familiar with these units still. I didn't play V6 too much. I did try one of the previous levels with the crawler tree. I think it was definitely one of the purple colored maps, and I think it had like the crawler tree or something in this description. And I did try it. It just didn't work as well as Mass Vela, so I think I didn't bother building any crawler tree here. Even my Corvuses, and I tried my best to keep them at max distance, of course. Even those, they definitely needed the full escort. I made them. I do have a small move out, where I did have some escort for them, and I thought it was actually sufficient. In fact, in some of my previous attempts, it was sufficient to clear out quite a lot of the space. But you definitely need a lot. It's 10 Corvuses. And similarly to the Swarmers, all of these foreshadows are also intentionally pretty far back. I want my units and my other turrets to hopefully deal with most of the enemies before consuming all of my precious Surge alloy. It's quite different in PvP actually. PvP you can actually go mass foreshadow, because usually you've only got a couple of tier 5 units, and then you've got a different player microing each one. Or even tier 3 units like Quasars, those are very microable and try to snipe things, but with foreshadows you can have coverage of everything. In here I'm just making the mono and poly factories, in case any of them die. In fact, I think I've been missing polys for a long time. There should be about 8 here. And that's so that all of my megas can stay on the titanium. You can also get Quasars to mine titanium, and you can even get them to build. I actually found that out by mistake on the map Nuclear Production Complex. I think on my winning attempt. Basically, after they blow up, I think after my reactors blow up, I selected my megas to rebuild, and I must have selected the Quasars with them, and I mean, no complaints, because I think I lost most of my megas in that gigantic explosion. I did try using Quasars as my Corvus escorts in one of the previous missions, but I found that they weren't very effective and they're pretty squishy. The shields weren't great, the damage wasn't very good, and it was actually a lot of work to micro them around. So just having the Veilers and having something more effective would be better. For this, I think it's supposed to be able to support 2 multi-presses, but I think the Air Blast build is actually not. There aren't that many coal tiles that the Air Blast build is on, so that's just to squeeze out a little bit more silicon production to ensure that all of the coal is going towards those crucibles. The Silicon. Technically, I have almost 2 tier 4 factories and a tier 5 factory working, because I'm sneaking out all of these Veilers from the tier 5. Here we have another round of Guardians. A tier 4 Crawler Tree, which I definitely know the name of. Well, they don't stand a chance with my army standing here though. In fact, what's more troublesome is mass flares and mass horizons. Although of course they're no trouble here, because I mean I've still got 4 shadows probably in range, so. And they're also just coming in straight lines, so they take all the damage. Those Corvuses miss pretty easily actually. You'll see that pretty soon. Build progress. The tier 5 is only halfway, so I sneak out another Veiler. And my base is pretty well covered. It's got force projectors everywhere, it's got weapons everywhere, it's got menders everywhere, and it's got all of the naval ships. The naval ships are extremely powerful and would be my unit of choice if it wasn't, if they could reach all of the bases. Although some of them they don't reach pretty well. They don't reach really well. And here I think I'm starting a small move out. Or soon. I think I start moving out with 16 Corvuses, or at some point we should build up to 16 Corvuses. And all of my Veilers, it should be around 15 as well. Surely that should be sufficient, right? Surely. At least take out the first base, of course, surely. The sound effects are really nice though. They did a good job of that. But here I was just experimenting with the different unit types. I still hadn't found a good escort unit at this moment in time. One of my, I think the attempt directly before this, I did also get to 100 waves, and my escort unit was actually the Tunborough, the tier 4 flare. And that did somewhat okay, but I think it also wasn't that effective either, so I was going to try a tier 5 dagger, and then I think after that I was going to test the tier 4 daggers, which is also what I was going to rely on, which is what I found the most useful and most effective, the tier 4 dagger. And that's because the tier 5 is actually just way too slow. All of the flares are flying circles around it. And the tier 4 daggers, they hit pretty hard as well in the previous runs. And in this run later, I lose a Corvus to it. In the previous runs, I'm pretty sure I lose multiple Corvuses to tier 4 daggers. I also get an oct just to move the tier 5 dagger around. I'm still trying the tier 5 dagger at this point. And there's a lot of terrain that he can't step over. It's actually pretty accurate, right? Those green tier ones, they're considered commander class, or I think I read the Nova was considered a commander class or something like that. So for most of the attack I will actually be piloting the Oct. Although I struggled to get the loading and unloading to work. And also some of the units' pathfinding was a little bit janky as well. And here is the awaited initial move out. The Corvuses are on the move, and then I've got escorting Baylor. 15 Corvus and 10 Baylor. The pathfinding is a little bit iffy. I wonder if it's like ghost blocks or something that they're trying to avoid. I know that they will avoid certain terrain tiles, but there really was nothing there, so... And yeah, all of the annoying tier 2 air units horizons. Flying cycles around all my units. One Oct and one Rain coming up. I think I'd try an Eclipse as well, a tier 5 flare. But I still definitely want to max on Corvuses. That will still be the backbone of my army. And currently the other tier 4 is not running, but I don't have the silicon to run it anyway. All of my Corvuses are still fooling around attacking the enemy units as opposed to the enemy base. The whole enemy base is collateral with all of these lasers are going everywhere. All of these bombers are still alive. How are they so strong? Eradication difficulty. And the first base is destroyed. The Oct is out and the Rain just came out as well. testing them personally. And struggling to pick them up. Are there any tips for this? Seems like I'm not very good at this, or I even double checked the payload capacity and the size. There it is. Time to ferry him out. Must be the RTS attack AI, making all of the enemies ferry units target my units. I am trying to drop off the rain over here, the tier 5 dagger. It's not wanting to be dropped off though. And I don't actually know why. There it is. So this initial army over here, initial army of 16 corvuses, 11 veilers, 1 rain, 1 oct. And they're out of way of the main path to my base, actually. And 1 Eclipse coming to join, giving her a test. Because I'm still figuring out what is a good escort for the corvuses, what's good at killing units and keeping my corvuses safe. One Eclipse, 1 Rain, 1 Oct. 10 Veilers, 16 Corvuses. And right now, I think they are in some trouble. I'm setting this up for the incoming quads. Be careful for air support units. The Guardians of this wave actually made it on my army. The Veilers happen to be in front, and I got the surviving ones to the back. I didn't lose corvuses yet, but I'm now down to 14. And the Oct's shield got melted. $11 corvuses left. Lost another one. Oh, never mind. Because there's one incoming corvus. Although these units are walking past my units, although this is not the usual path that they take, so I don't really know why they did that. In Corvuses, no more Veilers, lost all of the Veilers. And also, and limping back home, basically. Until I max out again. That's basically the story. And it's necessary. Otherwise, it's just going to be, just like the enemy, single, wild, we just dying to my defenses. And the quality was basically the same story. Even worse, in fact, so. Corvuses was still the way to go. And even with 16 Corvuses and 10 Veilers, they still got wrecked. And it'll be even worse as well, later on as well. Right now, at least I'm close to the base, and I can retreat back here. And also, that first base also doesn't have any water access, so I couldn't effectively get all of my naval units in there to support. So we just let the factory do its thing. I think here I try out the scepter, the Tier 4 dagger. That is an insane enemy base. Chock full of units as well. All the units are stuck inside of it. And there are a couple of Guardian quads just hanging out over here. And there's a base behind that even. A base behind the other base I was talking about. And here I realized I could actually build on that water. I thought that was actually deep water, but it's not. It's actually the other shade of purple that's the deep water. You can see the enemy's rebuilding the base, but there's nothing we can do. We've only got 13 forces, less than what I initially moved out with. plus enemies remaining on the map. I was just going through the list of units and pondering what might be a good escort. Local ammunition storage, one of my turrets. The scepter has arrived. Somewhere. Careful, dagger. And I found that it turns much faster than the rain does. Sneak out another 2-4. Instantly gone. Just trying to unload these 2 units here. I just wanted to get rid of this mace and fortress. There's 2 less different unit types to misclick, potentially. I even doubt my controls. I wonder if it's maybe the enemy's ghost blocks or something, like building a cube. My full mood art is coming up pretty soon, I think. Anyway, yeah, I've just been actually recording this voiceover just on my phone. And in terms of the gameplay, I was just using the Windows the Xbox file. And there's some interesting things going on with the resolution. I had to decrease the resolution, otherwise there would just be some like a big black spot on the right side and bottom side of the screen. And the mouse really didn't line up. Even right now in the recording, the mouse doesn't quite line up, but it's not too bad, I guess. I probably won't, at least I don't plan to do this in the future. I'm basically silent when I play it. Unless if you want to hear my reactions when I play, I can maybe do it live or something, but it's a little bit troublesome, not gonna lie. I'm surprised these 2 soldiers are alive. This is not structure. I think it might be a little while before we that actually in comparison to increase my set count. a little bit, and I also need to retake that first base that I rebuilt. I will need to encounter any waves that pass me, or pass my army as I move out. Because naturally their base and my army will be, and their army, or their attack wave will be in the way of attacking points. I guess apart from air units and water units, although some will still come to fight on fight. And then of course there will still be some way to my base. It should be fine. It is fine. I've still got all my naval units at home. Uses me to get those powers all good. There's coverage everywhere. All these quads are just chilling. I think I heard on one of my attempts when I tried to take the secondary calls when I killed the enemy base, those quads started moving only after I took that shard, and of course it got nuked. Without any power, you can't possibly defend it, and to get power there, I guess you could go RTGs, but I did try to get thorium reactors, although I guess that's just asking for trouble, not gonna lie. And here we're moving out. Or about to. I think I still need to get into my Oct to move with the units. And then my factories are just making naval units in the meantime. Might as well. $14, and the rest will go because I can boost below here. And the commander is taking command. Pretty fitting. I can fit 4 of these sectors. And sometimes I'm holding the unload button, sometimes I'm just spare clicking. I can't tell if it's to work, but yeah. My base has got pretty nice, there's a pretty nice cinematic view, I think. All of these lighting effects and these different coloured, yeah, lighting effects is pretty cool. Putting some good units up. Although, not necessary, but because they didn't even rank my person well. pick up one more sector, and then that makes a multiple of 4, which is exactly what fits inside the opt. And then here we have even more quads. Maybe it's the same now, actually, I don't remember. 12 of them, I'm pretty sure. 12 quads. I am not going to be going back to pick up more sectors. Well, I think maybe I'll pick up one more batch. Later will be too far. The only things that can come themselves, I will make it into especially the veilers. And I'll be leaving the Eclipse at home. Very helpful actually. So yeah. Eclipse is on babysitting duty. Although I haven't actually figured out how to use it. Yeah. That would probably help. All of these enemy sectors coming in. Those are really scary. Those will shred my units pretty quickly, if unattended. Ooh, quads have come out, right? Just as I was about to move up. There we go, official moving up. Stepping out of the safety of my walls. And I'm basically playing very scared here. Yeah, I think if you saw the first move out, I think you should understand. And two toxopins, I think. Tier 5 crawlers. Made on the field, although they're just sitting there. It'll be a slow crawl towards the enemy base. Even as I'm killing these enemies, there's almost always, well, there's like always 200 enemies on the field at once. How fast these enemies are dropping, but the number is still above 200, and the waves about 100. Now will be the unit micro time, and this was way different compared to the V5 days. We just had the command center block. And actually, in my opinion, the command center block was what made the difference between a Grandmaster and a non-Grandmaster at the time. Actually, most people, they should be able to learn a build order, so, you know, and they get units up pretty easily. And then what made you a Grandmaster was unit micro and just really using the command centers smartly. A technique you could do was, if you have two command centers in your base, but one of them is surrounded by solid blocks, so ground units can't walk to it, air units will still come to it, so you can actually spread your army like that. And potentially fool the enemy. In the Hex Wars, if you took a Hex behind them, you can actually place a command center there and then tell them to rally here, and then they will basically ignore everything. All your flying units will ignore everything and fly directly to it. Because normally they just attack the closest thing. You only had attack, which is attack the nearest thing, or rally, which is come here, basically, come to this one center, or come to this block. Or you had retreat, I think, which was, oh no, or stop moving. They simply just stand where they are. But now there's RTS style of commanding units, which is pretty good. And look at this top Serpid. It's melted. Didn't even get past its first fuse. What if I set up this base as an attack map? You guys attack my base. Of course, I would adapt it a little bit. First of all, to resist a mass corpus army like what I currently have, I would definitely go like double or triple layer of Castodian walls. And I'd probably move the men projectors to the outside. I mean, inside the walls, but in front of the fuses. So that there is much more wall within each radius of men projector, if that makes sense. And then I would probably just change most of my swarmers into foreshadows. Although, I don't know how AI bases work. Do they have resources? Do they actually need to produce resources? Because currently I'm importing a mass amount of resources, and that's the only reason why my base functions right now. Because I'm not actually producing any of this myself. Only silicon, and then using units to mine. Megas to mine titanium, mainly. Lead and copper, of course. I've got nothing core drawing, sand or coal to make silicon or graphite or anything. I don't have any of the core space that I need because I'm unloading everything from the core to make units. This is an attack map after all. After all of that defense and base building. Quad coming in. I try to cover it with my shields of my units. I'm not sure if it works. Because watching back my nuclear production complex video, I didn't have shield projectors in, but I did hit quasars. So I did try to use the quasars as shield projectors, right? But I'm not sure if they actually blocked anything, or I wonder if they're booster mode, they only block air attacks. I'm not too sure how that works. Yep, the ops shields got melted. And as you can see, all these sectors, they do great anti-air as well. Keep all of these horizons off of me, and they react pretty quickly, whereas Veilers, Corvuses, of course, they turn very slowly. Veilers, they turn pretty slowly as well. And also Scepters, they attack way better while moving. And the micro is way easier. I think Fortresses couldn't do this, possibly. Impossible to do this. Can you get me on over? Haven't lost anything that I built out yet. I did try taking this, but it's really not worth it. It's also in a terrible location. How could I defend this? I mean, maybe if I drag power from my main base. But if I don't pay attention and accidentally drag too much power, then my main base dies. That's terrible, because it's currently very strong. And I decided just to hold up because these resources here is not very good as well. And yeah, again, terrible to build it. And the other thing is, if I build here, then all of my polys and everything would be spread thin. As well as all of my phase consumption. Because I've currently got basically full coverage of my base using force projectors and then projectors, and probably half of which is phase boosted. If I had to extend that line, it's probably not so good. Basically, I'm just using my base as a choke point for any units that go from my base. But currently, a lot of things are passing through my attacking army, which I guess also takes the heat off my main base, which it is what it is. I don't know if it's good or bad, but it is. Ooh. Cut a nice chunk of that base, and then here comes the reinforcing Veilers. Is an incoming wave. I'm just going to set these to the front. Or at least just bring them in range. And the range is shorter than the Corvus. Nothing's longer range than a Corvus. Bring my shields over. Not sure if it's actually protecting anything. But I mean, the fact that my shields go down, that's nothing bad. At least absorbing damage. When you look at these settlers, they target all of these straggly units way better than Veilers do. I think the description said that scepters also increase the shield region, so that would be good for the top. Anyway, now I need to ferry everyone over. I get my expensive Corvuses in. Once in position, basically, even if there's a few flaggers left, I can move the rest of my units in under only small amounts of fire, if any fire at all. I just go in Suicide Veiler actually, because I'm about to max out. Well, I am maxed, and then there's about to be one too many, and then the subsequent production was going to be more scepters. Another big gold wave incoming. Try to retreat into the hidey hole. I don't want to lose any of them. I am far from home after all. Luckily these units don't seem to be targeting my units too much. Well, at least not specifically, unlike those boats over there. And the horizons. Because my scepters are not in range, they'll be spinning around like mad. even with the amount of healing that I get from my raiders, I will lose units if those horizons aren't accounted for. And I'm trying to drop off units, trying to drop off the Serpulus. And ferry over the last batch. Just about. Yeah, those other sectors just now just walking around some random thing. Checking my main base. There's been times where I look back and all of a sudden I'm out of power or something. Or I'm just dead. Oh, oh yeah, no bed. Tier 4 ships being made all this time. I don't have tier 5 ships, of course. I unlock it after this mission. Look at all those units stuck in there. Some little stragglers asking for death. And coming up on 2 hours, I actually didn't realize that the Xbox Game Bar recording thing automatically stops at 2 hours maximum duration. Alrighty, and then this is after I realized that the recording had stopped. Only wave 100, and the previous one actually stopped at 90 waves. Only 2 waves. How much time is that? Roughly 4 minutes. And in between now and then, all of those units that were stuck behind, that was clogged behind the walls, they basically came at me, and I fought them off, although I did lose one Corvus in the process. Bunch more quads coming in, and there's one chilling back there, I think. I'm very scared of all of these sectors coming in. They do a lot of damage, and the fight's definitely not over yet. least right now, while I'm paying attention and monitoring them, I can clear most of them. Just checking that main base is okay. Yep. Solid. Yep. Look how fast that shield got vaporized as soon as I moved into position. Again, got vaporized. And 2 corvuses spawned from the wave. As well as the tier 4 or tier 5 guardian. I've actually seen the icon a few times, but I've not even noticed the guardian ship. I mean, I guess my defense is too good. I'm going to have to take all these sectors, and my shield's down again. Luckily, oh, they're still tricking me in actually. Enemy corvus has been spotted. And questionable targeting skills. Just 2's not going to do anything there. That's my main base, and I didn't even realize my army was here. Now here I realize that if I want my units to stop, or like cancel the move command, I can just click the wall where they cannot actually walk. Because up until this point, basically what I did is I killed, well I made them target something that was just about to be killed, for them to stop or cancel their command. And I did change that wall to be copper just now, to try and encourage them to come through the front where most of my units are, but it didn't work. But it's fine. The side is fine as well. And yeah, as I said, I didn't even realize the other guardians had died, but they have died. There's only the 2 corvuses left. One corvus left. Right, no enemy corvuses left. Second coming in. It's scary. In fact, I go and body block. Yep, you can see one of my corvus is on low health. With the rapid fashion there. The rate that it flashes at is an indicator of how low its health is. There is a range to heal it and just clean up the rest of the space. Now this space has got a lot more space and it looks a lot nicer to take, but there's not much to gain out of this really, and in fact there's more liability, so I did try to take this in my previous attempt, and it did not work, so I'm not even going to try it this time. There's not much that taking this base will offer me. I can go an outpost with turrets or something, which, I mean, I have an army. I don't need healing as well. So, and having a base here just creates additional targets, really, so. Because currently a lot of things are going, a lot of the wave is still going to my main base. All the C units, all the naval units are still going to my main base. But if all of a sudden they would come here, I would have to use my army to defend it. No, and they would not go well. Here we have enemy fortresses, enemy T3s tickling my shield. It's kind of funny to see actually. 23 corvus, 23 lower, 6 interceptors. No sectors have died. No veilers have died, except for the one infantry center. He was scouting. And one corvus has died. And there is some terrain over here where my corvuses can pass through, my veilers can fly through, and I will just shuttle the settlers across myself as we approach the final base. Scepter is actually the most scary thing. I'll do that first. I think the audio of Mindustry is not working properly all of a sudden, so in a few minutes I do restart my game. By the way, my initial sort of impression of the spelling of Mindustry was actually Mindustry, although the closest spelling of Mindustry is actually Industry, at least in my opinion. If you take out the first letter, right? You take out the first letter M, and it's just industry, so we've got Mindustry. And then the enemy wave spawner is actually here, and not in the enemy main base, so that's a thing. And it doesn't help that most of my Veilers are actually boosted. I tried to body block. I guess that I have higher priority than all of my other units, which is good, as an Oct. At least Oct shields definitely protect against ground attacks, because these horizons only attack ground. I thought I lost one scepter here actually, but it's just underneath that bit of terrain. That little tree? Snow-covered tree or something? I'm setting my own units on fire. Another pair of corvuses are about to arrive. Corvuses? Corvuses? Yeah, I just restarted Mindustry. And here comes the final base. So to defend against a mass Corvus army, the only thing you can do really is to stack multiple layers of large by-standing walls and raise from the sky. And then for the type of choice, I guess you have foreshadows now, so you can use mass foreshadows. Even if it's against like Serpulo and stuff, mass foreshadows will do good against waves. So really, I'm actually, again, I'm not actually that familiar with all these units. I played mostly in Mindustry V5, a little bit of V6. corpuses on my doorstep. And we're just walking through the depths. And there is a foreshadow in that base, but there's only one. What is one foreshadow going to do? Of course, it cannot one-shot any of my corpuses. I'm not even sure if it's one-shot players, I don't think it's fun. I'm also prepared to use the Oct as well, if I need to. But I think it dies to something else. Maybe I was targeting the buildings or units in front of it, and the laser actually goes through. Ooh, 2 pops. Shield is down. And I thought it was going to be the end, so I was like, call the boys, bring everything. And then I saw this big old wave, and I thought, maybe not. I don't want to die a stupid death after all of this, so... yeah, nope, change the plan. And I think that was a good call. So let's just end this. Oh, I forgot I was not piloting the Oct. I think I did it twice. Oh, that foreshadow did die. All these units perfectly lining up for me. Although, it doesn't matter everything. And there it is. 116 waves. Sector captured. Yeah, so this was definitely a very tough mission. Maybe not the toughest mission that I've ever done. I did do one that I would consider even harder than this, and it was a defense mission. In that version of Mindustry, we didn't have all of these fancy units like we do now. But the enemy still had like range and stuff. You had 5 daggers. And this was all supported by my export base, that I built on the extraction outpost. Yeah. Thanks for watching. And yeah, see you next time.